Okay, so I am working on the PW50 again. Go watch the last video. It's going to be a little bit of a part 2. Might not be as long as a video, but I'm going to try to do what I can. Right now what I'm doing, if you watched part 1, which is kind of a long video, but it kind of goes through and I explain what to do on pretty much tearing it down so I can access this cover right there. So right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out why the bike won't idle. What's going on with it to why it won't idle. So I'm going to try to mess with the carburetor. I might take this carburetor apart, look at it, go through it, see what's going on with it. If not, I might have to buy an OEM carb because this carb is an aftermarket. It's from QA Parts, and I'm not 100%. I've never used them before, so it could just be these aftermarket carbs aren't very good for them. I don't know. I did not really read reviews because it was only like a $20 carb. I bought it off Rocky Mountain. So I'm gonna probably go through the carb, see if I can maybe adjust some of the different maybe pilot or air screw or whatever in there, and see what I can do on that. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it apart. If you watched the last video, you already know there's a little bolt right there. It's just like, I think it's an 8mm. There's just a Phillips head screw right there, and there's this little clip for the airbox, and an airbox is held on by one little Phillips head right there. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I mean, there's this thing right here, which this thing literally just pulls out. I can pull it out right now just like that. So that thing is already pulled out. I do need to check to see, because I'm pretty sure this is not supposed to come out. So I need to check about that. But other than that, I'm going to take this carb down, and then I'm going to go through and clean it up for you. So let's get into that real quick. So like I said, there's just that bolt right there. Just pull it out, and then there's that right there. And then there's this little thing, which isn't supposed to come out, but it come out. You just kind of tuck it back in. There's these little like things on the side of it, if I can get it to focus. But there's these little things right there, and they just kind of go right on that. So when you go back to installing it, just make sure you line them up, and then that should just pop right on. If you can't get this on, very good, you can use a screwdriver to help you, or you can take like a heat gun or something like that, heat it up, get it a little more pliable, and then put it through. So got that off. Now I'm going to unloosen this, and obviously we're going to shut the tank off. I should have said that earlier, but shut your tank off. We're going to unscrew that, and we're going to pop this hose off. I actually might pop the hose off from down here. It might be a little bit easier. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to unscrew that, take this carb ball off, and then we're going to lay it down, and we're going to go through the entire carb and make sure everything that we got is good to go. So let's go ahead and get to that. Okay. So I got this out. This is obviously your throttle. So this is your throttle needle and everything. So if you actuate this here, it should bring that up just like that. So move this out of the way. But yeah, so that is your, maybe if I can get this out of the way. So long that stays there. So yeah, so this is your throttle. This is your choke. So if I flip that choke on the upper portion here, it should, maybe not. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe that choke doesn't work. I can figure out why this choke isn't working, and then from there, I'm going to still go ahead and clean up the carb before I go putting it on, and adjust everything, and make sure everything is unclogged, and make sure everything looks fine. Maybe this carb's a little faulty, who knows, so I'll figure it out as I go. So I'll be right back once I get all that crap figured out. So apparently all it is this choke is just extremely stiff. So let me turn this light on. So apparently it's just really stiff. So when I was pushing it down, I gotta really push it. So it's just extremely stiff. So I just gotta make sure. So like I said, I'm still gonna go through the carb and everything, but that may very well be our issue to why it's wanting to bog down. and why it's wanting to shut off after it kind of warms up, because that means the choke was on. Because pretty much how these chokes work is once you flip them, it pulls that up, and then once you do this, it's supposed to kind of push it back down, but it's like extremely stiff. So I don't know, but yeah, it moves now. Once I get that down, there's a little more something there. So I don't know why that's so stiff, because this is a, I'm pretty sure it was an OEM cable, because that was a pretty sure OEM, and the gasket I put on was OEM. The top end kit was just a QA parts like this, like the Carburetor is, because that's what everything I saw online they were recommending. Even Rocky Mountain themselves were recommending the QA parts kit, because it's only like $50. And for these bikes, it's not like you got to go outrageous, because it's not like they're high performance bikes. They're just for a kid to pit around on. These things go for $500 on secondhand markets. You go marketplace anywhere, you can pick these things up for real cheap, and they're really easy to work on. There's nothing to them. So that was what was suggested, so that's what I put on. So I mean, I don't know why there would be a problem. Hopefully with this there's not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and take these off too and clean these. I'm just going to take a little bit of sandpaper and just clean them up, because they are extremely rusted. Obviously there is spark because it runs fine when it does run, but like I said, it's wanting to obviously choke itself. So this is probably the issue with that. So okay. So I got the carb right here. I am just going to disconnect this hose. So this hose, I will disconnect it. It's just an overflow hose. So I'm just going to throw that off to the side. So now what I'm going to do is we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we got 4 bolts at the bottom. Watch for gas, because there's going to be gas leak now. That's why I always put down a paper towel. And always keep extra paper towels next to you. Which I don't know. I'm going to flip it up like that. I'm going to get an actual screwdriver so I don't have to use this little bitted screwdriver. So okay. So I'm going to grab my Phillips. So I just got, you want a decently thick Phillips. You don't want anything super tiny. So got that Phillips. Now we're just going to put some pressure on it, and we're just going to twist them. Make sure you put some pressure, because you don't want to strip these out. So I'm just gonna break them all loose first, and then we'll go through twisting them all out. So and now I'm just gonna line these up as I go. Make sure you can see that. Make sure it's a camera. So I'm going to just keep twisting these out and lining up next to each other. So I got them all out, and now what you do is you just take your bowl and you pop this off. So now obviously you're going to look in it to make sure there's no gunk in it. This is obviously a brand new carb, so there ain't going to be a ton. Obviously have some carb cleaner on hand, and I'm just going to spray this out, just because there is a little bit of something, there's a little bit of residue in there, but other than that, it doesn't look dirty, because it really shouldn't be. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my gasket off so I don't accidentally rip it. So there's your gasket. And then now what we got is this is your float. So you got a little push pin that pushes through right there. So what you're going to do is you're just going to grab a hold of that. Sometimes you can just kind of knock it through and get a hold of that. Sometimes you have to use pliers. So I just got a little pair of pliers, and I'm just going to grab a hold of the end and just pull it right out. It should just come right out like that. Sometimes they're a little bit harder, so you might have to get a little bit of something on this other side and just tap it through. Don't hit too hard. Now under that, which it already fell out, but this is your needle. So this thing just kind of sits down in here, and what happens is your float, once the carb fills up with gas, this float will float up to the top and it will seal it off. So this thing, when it's flipped over, this needle drops out, once the bowl fills up, this float will tilt all the way up, and then pushing this needle into the spot where the gas goes through this little hole down here, right there. It just seals it off, so no more gas can go through, so the bike doesn't flood it out. So always inspect these. Go through, make sure you have no cracks on it. Make sure it is keeping air. Sometimes what you can do is just take it, if you got a little bit of water, drop it down in that water, see if it bubbles. If it bubbles, then this float is bad. So most likely this one's not going to be bad. I don't see any visible cracks. The seal looks fine. I don't think I was having problems with it flooding it out. So now we're going to move on to these jets. So in this hole, you're going to have a pilot jet, and then this is going to be your main. So what we're going to do is just grab a flat head. Okay. So a little flat head. I'm just going to spin this jet out just like that. And we're going to even get a smaller flathead because I can't get into that. I'm going to spin this one out down here. So it's down in there. I'm just going to twist it all the way out. You're just going to spin it until it comes, and then you should be able to dump it out. And there they come out. So you'll just go up to the light, kind of look through these holes, make sure they're all clear, and then look down the center and make sure. Sometimes these don't have a hole. Sometimes these don't have a hole, but most likely they do. So just always check that, because I had a KLX once, and I used to go to school for this. I went to a trade school, so I asked my teacher, I'm like, hey, is this KLR supposed to have, did I say KLX or KLR? I'm in a KLR 250. Is this supposed to have a hole in it? And he said sometimes they don't always have to have a hole. And I said, oh, okay. So I kind of just went past that, and I worked on the bike and kept working on it. And finally I was just like, I'm just going to go and buy a cheap aftermarket carb and throw on there, because I'm getting tired of it, and I don't want to go spend $250 if it ends up not being it. So I just bought a cheap aftermarket carb, threw it on there, and it started right up. And what I ended up doing was looking in the jet, noticing that this pilot jet had a hole in it, and I was like, well, that was my entire issue. So I've been working on this bike for weeks and having problems with it, and it was just this simple issue that I thought it was. I should have just trusted my gut, but I ended up going to my teacher, and he said that, and I was just like, well, I'm going to steer away. So always try to trust your gut on that. If it does not have a hole in it, see if you can find one. But if not, sometimes these little pilot jets, for a stock one, or a like aftermarket Tusk or something decent from like Rocky Mountain, they can be like 12, 13 bucks. Just buy one. If it's not it, you're not out a ton of money. If you have a customer, they're not out a ton of money. So, and then if you are like doing this for a customer, if it ends up not being the part, sometimes what I do is I just got a box of spare parts. I just write what it was for, and I just throw it in that box. So in case I ever have another KLX, I already have that, and I can use it whenever, and or maybe if I buy one, I can use it. So I might just keep it and not charge them. So yeah, so always inspect. That one looks good, and then obviously inspect this one. This one's gonna have a really tiny pinhole, so just put it up to the light, and if you can see through it, blow through it, make sure everything is good. And this one is clean. So now we're going to check the main. And again, look it up to the light, make sure you can see through it. I like to give it a little blow and make sure you can see. The other thing I'm going to inspect is I'm just going to take a little pen light. I'm just going to shine down inside these little ports and make sure everything looks good. Again, you can take this entire carb and shine up to the light and make sure you can see through both of those ports, and both of them look good. So overall, like I said, I'm going to clean this bowl up, and I'm going to spray this carb down a little bit. Just wipe it down. Other than that, it looks perfectly fine, and then we'll get into the installing process. Okay, so I got my carb cleaner here. It's just a normal gum out brand carb cleaner, just what you have. It doesn't matter what carb cleaner I have. Any carb cleaner works. Now what you do is obviously put your safety glasses on so you don't get this stuff in your eye, because it does not feel too good. Again, learned from experience. I've had this stuff in my eye. So what you're gonna do is typically you'd have a hose. If you have a hose, you'd put down in all these ports, throw that, even though that you already looked through them, you'd make sure you have. I don't have a hose on here, so I'm just gonna try to get in those ports as good as I can. Which, like I said, these ports all look pretty good. Yep, there's stuff coming out of that one. You just want to make sure you got, there's stuff coming out of that. There's stuff coming out of both of them. So you just want to make sure all your ports are clear. Any ports that are not, make them clear. Another thing you can use is there's these little welder tips. I like to use these. You can buy these. I don't really know how much they are. These are just a whole Bart set for my, I had got them with my welder when I bought my welder. So you just got different these little points. Sometimes you don't want to use these, but sometimes you can, because you don't want to waller out your holes on your jets, because it can sometimes affect it. But sometimes you can just use these just to kind of poke through. Don't poke through and keep poking it, because like I said, you can sometimes mess your jet up with these, so be careful. But this is something you can use. I'll show you another thing that I like to use, which are, first of all, these little picks. Buy a set of these picks. These are just from Harbor Freight. These are like, I think, $2 or something like that from Harbor Freight. They're just cheap, easy picks. You can just kind of clean them out with that. There's supposed to be 4 of them. I lost my 4th one somewhere, so. But like I said, these are like $2. Go back, buy a new set. If you want to buy a nice set, you can, but these are just in case you want to pull like a gasket. Sometimes these have grooves in them, and the gasket's stuck in that groove. So you can always take these picks and just kind of pick it out. And then the other thing are these little tiny wire brushes. These brushes are good to have, because you can take these down and put them into the ports and just clean them out. Brushes are really good to have too, because you can just take these and throw them down in the ports, clean them out real good, make them real nice and clean. They're just a really thin, they're not wire, they're just a really thin, like, I guess you'd consider like a hair brush. I don't know what you'd consider it, like a horsehair style brush. Just real thin, nothing too rough, almost like a pipe cleaner feel to them. But these are another thing I got from Harbor Freight for a few bucks. And those are my main things to have around the shop, help clean. None of this stuff is extremely expensive, and like I said, always keep some carb cleaner on you at all times. Okay, so now that this is nice and cleaned out, we will start installing it. But now I gotta first, before I start installing, I almost forgot to do this, I need to clean this bowl out. So the same thing with the bowl. Go ahead and just spray it down. Another thing you can have is, now this one's a little too aggressive, but you can buy these little packs. They're just little wire brushes. Get it like a little bit of a softer one. You can kind of scrape out if it's got some green gunk in there or whatever. So that's another thing I like to keep. Like I said, I gotta get a new set, because my sets were getting real rough, so I threw them out. But I'm just going to take a shop rag. I'm just going to wipe this out. I'll wipe this bottom of this carb off, and we are going to start putting all this stuff back together, because like I said, there's not much wrong. So now what you're doing is you're putting everything back together. So you're going to start throwing everything back in. Sometimes you can adjust these. Sometimes these screws might need a little bit of an adjustment, but typically you just tighten them down till they're flush. Okay, sorry, but I gotta go back. This didn't come out of this down here, out of the pilot hole. At least what I thought was the pilot hole. I might be wrong about that. It might not be the pilot, so I'll look it up and I'll put text on the screen to tell you if that's the pilot hole or not, because it looks like the pilot hole. Yeah, it would have to be, because this would be the main. I don't know. I'm not for sure. I'm guessing this came out of here because that's the only way it would fit. Yeah, it would have had to have come out of there. So I guess it came out of the main jet. This would have had to have been the main jet. I'm just screwing it in, and I'm just gonna take this and we're just gonna twist it, and same thing with this. We're just gonna drop that down in, and this one just twist all the way flush. Obviously, when you're taking these out, sometimes you can always make sure by checking by putting your screw in there and then twisting it in, seeing if it needs to twist in any. If it doesn't twist in, then just twist it out. It doesn't take much, so once you pretty much snug it down, you're good. These don't got to be super godly tight. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take this needle, I'm just going to drop it down, maybe. Just going to drop it down in here, just like that. So it just sits in there like that. And then we're going to drop that down in there. And in this little pin, I'm just going to put it in here like that. And I'm just going to feed it through, just like that. Feed it all the way through till it's like that. And then always make sure, which this is hard to do with this, because this whole thing moves. It's not, typically they don't move that far, but this one does, for whatever reason. So typically what you do is you just kind of make sure that thing falls out, which it does. It's really loose, so obviously it falls down. So you just flip it like this. I can't really show you that well, and you just make sure this thing falls and it's moving out and in. So you just flip it like that, and kind of keep patting it up and down to make sure that that needle falls out and it's not sticking. So now we'll flip it back over, and then we'll drop, first of all, the gasket. Put the gasket on first, and then once we get that on, we'll drop that down just like that. Now, this is a habit. I don't know if this is really a necessary thing you have to do. It's just something I like to do. I like to do it pretty much anytime I'm tightening down something that takes more than one bolt. I always try to tighten it down evenly, unless it's maybe 2 bolts and it just doesn't need to be tightened down evenly. But typically, I try to keep it so I'm tightening them down relatively evenly. So I'm going to obviously just make these all flush, or all snug down. I'm going to snug everything down, and then after that I will just kind of give them each one little snug, but I'm gonna snug them down in a kind of like a star pattern way, like you'd do anything else. So okay, so just tighten it down. Like I said, I'm just gonna snug them down like this without stripping them out. Put a little bit of pressure. They do got the lock washers on them, so it's not like it takes much, but just a little bit, and that's pretty much it. And now I'm ready to put it back on the bike. Obviously, I'm going to install this hose back on. This is just a vent hose, but still, you're going to want it, because if not, the gas will just come right out of there, and it'll just be leaking all over your bike and everything. So the vent hose just takes it down to the ground instead of having to leak it. So now we'll go ahead and install this back into the bike, and then we'll see if the bike will start. So I got the carb here. Like I said, it just goes like that. It's going to feed. There is a little thing down in this. If you can see that little thing right down there, you just line it up with the throttle cable side like that, because if you put it in any other way, it will not feed down in. So just feed it just like that. I'm going to make sure this thing sticks. So we'll just feed it down, make sure it seats, make sure that needle goes through, and then everything should just kind of fall in place just like that. And now and get my screw, and the screw will just fall down in just like so. Okay. I'm gonna grab my screwdriver, and we're just gonna screw this in. Just like that. Make sure it looks all sealed and good, and it does. So now we will throw this all back together now. I'm gonna move that out of the way. And then this little line is just gonna be fed back down into there. Just like that. And then this is just gonna be thrown back on into here. And then you just kind of wiggle it till it seats. And give it some light little love taps. Just to make sure it's seated. And then, yeah, so now it's nice and seated. So I'll bring you around here real quick, so you can see that right there. That's this little boot right there is what you're wanting to seat, so it seals. So now we're going to first tighten down this bolt right here. It's just an 8mm. I have to hold it from the other side. So just tighten down this bolt. Like I said, it's just an 8mm, or more so 7mm. I think this is a little bit. Maybe, yeah, it's probably a little bit big, but it is what it is. Is this? Yeah. Okay. Maybe an 8. Okay. So just tighten that down till it doesn't like wiggle. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this back on, just like that. Make sure that spring's on there, and then I'm gonna turn you back here a little bit, and then this little thing just goes up and over, and it hooks right into there, just like that. Now for the boot, there's this. Like I said before earlier, these little lines, just you want to line it up right with that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in with like a screwdriver, just kind of push it down in there so it seats. So now it's on there just like that. Make sure you have a seal all the way around, and then make sure them little tooth things, all them things are lined up right there. And then this should go back on. I'm just going to pull this bolt out. It's down here. And then, so you just give it a little bit of might, get it on there, just like so. Take a flathead, and make sure everything is seated down. Just kind of going from all sides. And then there's this little clip right here, and you just put it right somewhere. Just right like that. And I like to pull on both sides of the clip to make sure it's on there tight. And then down here, you got a little Phillips head screw down in here. And we're just going to tighten that down. Just like that. And now it's nice and snug in there. Make sure everything looks good. And that should be everything put back together. Now I'm going to go ahead and try to kick it over. And make sure this choke is down. Start it with the choke and make sure it's down. I'm going to go ahead because it says there should be 1.5 turns. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this in. And I'm going to come out 1.5 turns, and you might have to tweak it as you go. So just on this, on the air screw, 1.5 turns, and then you have to, I'm gonna have to adjust my idle from there because I definitely messed up my idle. So yeah, so I got it running. All it was just that stupid choke. It just was really stiff, so I got it tuned back up. I might need to turn the idle down just a tad, but it runs. I'm gonna throw the seat back on, and then let's take it out for a little spin, I guess. So I'm happy that I got it done, and I'm happy that I found out that problem. So I'm just so happy that I got it done. So let's get the plastics back on and let's see if it rips. Okay, so throwing the seat back on is just these two little bolts in here. 1, 2. That's all there is. Just slides on. Really nothing other than that. So, and I'm gonna grab the foot pegs off of those, which are just little 2 push pins, and actually put the foot pegs on. So, yeah, hopefully it rips. So, let's get to it. So I got these are the foot pegs. They're just pushed in with these pins. It's got a washer and it's got that. So I'm just gonna throw them on. They just go. I'll grab the stuff and take it down here real quick. So they just go on right there. So they literally just kind of seat in just like that. And then this pin pushes through. So let me see if I can do this one-handed. So push it through just like that. And then boom. And just like that, now you got a foot peg. And then this washer goes on, and then this little clip right here goes in. So I'll get them on, and I'm going to take it for a spin. So it runs. Literally, I'm going to say all it was literally just that little piece right there. It runs, it pulls me. I'm no little guy, so I mean, it pulls me real good, and it actually gets up there, probably going at least 10 miles, 10, 15 miles per hour, probably about 10, if that, maybe a little bit slower, I don't know, but it was going pretty good. You know, obviously I was struggling like up a hill, but I'm also not, you know, a 7-year-old, you know, so pretty good. Like I said, it was just this thing. I didn't pay attention, and it just needed pushed down. Other than that, thing runs beautifully. It is good. I might need to pump the tires up just a tad. They're not too bad, but they're a little low, so I'm gonna pump the tires up. Whenever I get a chance, once it warms up just a tad, I'm gonna spray this thing off, and I might buy like some new plastics for it, because there are some like stress marks on these plastics and stuff like that. There's old Fox stickers that I put on there when I was younger. I think my brother bought these Fox stickers for me, and I put them on there. So, and my number, which was 50, and now my number is 150. So, not so much change, I guess. So, I am really excited. I'm gonna the kid that rides this, I'm gonna have to throw the restrictor because she's never rode. So the kid that I think that it's gonna probably be the only kid I really know right now that's gonna be able to ride it, because everyone else are too old. She might not ride it. She might still have like a year or so, maybe a couple years left, because she's only 3 right now. But if not, I might sell it and then buy a newer one or something. I don't know yet, but I mean, this thing is a blast. These little PW50s, I mean, they are mean machines. They are very, very good machines. If you got a little one, I recommend these over the TTRs any day, because I had a cousin that had a TTR, and all that had was problems. Especially since it's not a kickstart, it's battery. And for a kid's bike, why do we need an electric start for a kid's bike? So, so when it's cold, it just killed it, because a lot of these bikes, like most of the TTRs don't. I had a TTR 230, same issue with it. Every time it was cold, the battery just died, and it's like you could never get it running because it didn't have a Kickstarter. So I always recommend these PWs over those TTR 50s, because these PWs are just are really good machines. I mean, you can't go wrong with them. And that Carb does work now, and that does work. I did tune it to where it's just needs turn it all the way in, turn it out 1.5 turns, and it seems to be running good. I obviously adjusted, turned the idle down a little bit because I had the idle a little bit high. But yeah, just this choke right here. That's all it was. So that's really the end right now. This is part 2. If you guys need to go watch part 1, go watch it. Pretty much I tear down this entire bike till I get I tear everything down till I get to the engine, and then I replace that gasket because it was leaking oil. So I can't wait. I'm definitely going to probably buy some plastics. I'll update you if I have any more parts. You guys will be seeing a part 3. I got some other projects I'm going to be working on too, so if you guys do enjoy these videos, even though this is only my second one, please go ahead and subscribe. I'll gladly take the subscribers. But if you guys, like I said, if you guys like it, like I said, I don't really care about the subscribers. I'm just doing this for fun, just something to do while I'm down here working, because I'm doing it anyway, so why not film it and show you guys what I'm doing. So yeah, if you guys are enjoying these videos, please go ahead and subscribe, and you'll get a notification every time I upload something. So so far this PW50 is on pause. I've got it running, runs good. It looks good other than a little bit of some wear on the tank. There's a little bit of wear on this there, so there's a few little things, but other than that, it's all pretty much good. I need to clean it up though, so I don't know. I got some other things. I got to replace the tube on that bike, so I'm going to have a video on that. That's an 08 CRF 80. Might do some videos on that bike too, because it's down right now. I'm having problems with it not wanting to idle, so I'm going to take a look at that too. I need to I took the carb off once, but I need to do it again. So like I said, if you guys are enjoying these videos, please go ahead and subscribe. You'll be updated anytime I upload, and yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.